Hello and welcome. In today's video, we're gonna give some love to LlamaIndex, or formerly known as GPT Index. It's a library designed to simplify the process of connecting large language model to external data sources. It provides a lot of tools like indexing, querying, and managing data to make it easier to build applications that use large language model for tasks like information retrieval, building RAGs, data augmentation, and natural language understanding. LlamaIndex get compared a lot to LangChain because both of them are library created for almost the same purpose. But if you took a look to its popularity and search on Google Trend, you will find that actually LangChain is far above in terms of usage and searching compared to LlamaIndex. And the reason is that LlamaIndex is kind of working on a specific domain, but LangChain is trying to be the go-to for everything, a framework. If you want to build the agent, you want to build augmented retrieval, you want to build LangGraph, it's gonna be LangChain. But to be honest, when you use LangChain and use LlamaIndex, you will find that LlamaIndex is much faster in terms of execution and results. Comparing the performance in both of them, the latency of both of them are dependent on which large language model they are talking to. In terms of optimization, LlamaIndex may be faster when it gets involved in large scale data indexing or retrieving data because it specializes itself in indexing techniques. LangChain can be faster for tasks like require managing complex multi-step workflow because it's depend on the change process inside it. When it comes to use cases, the actual performances will depend on the specific use case. For example, in a use cases requiring complex data retrieval for large data set, you might find that LlamaIndex performing much better than LangChain. But when it comes to conversational agent with multiple dialogue steps, LangChain will beat LlamaIndex. So as you can see, LlamaIndex is kind of better when you work with RAG. So in today's video, we're gonna learn how to do basic compilation, chat with LlamaIndex, basic RAG with vector search and summarization, advanced RAG with routing, text-to-SQL query and structured data extraction, chat engine with memory, and finally we're gonna close it off with a simple agent. All of this stuff is gonna be using open source large language model and libraries. Nothing gonna be closed behind doors. Except maybe the provider of our large language model. You can use either Grok or whatever what you find available for you. But for me, I'm using Grok. So without further ado, let's dig into our code. I'm starting with installing what I need. In my case, I'm using Grok. So I'm installing the large language model for it in LlamaIndex. LlamaIndex support a very long list of available LLM integration. As you can see in this page, it's a very good support for a lot of large language model providers. You can find Grok over here. I'm pretty sure you can find something like Gemini. If you don't have access to Grok, you can use Gemini. API, the free tier. You have here access to LangChain also. Perplexity, I think it's over here. Yeah, it's, of course, you're gonna find OpenAI, Llama, NVIDIA. There is a lot of providers. So pick, choose whatever you can access. First step, we're gonna set up our Grok model. In your case, whatever large language model that you are using and its provider. I'm using the Llama 3 8B model. You can change it for whatever what you want. I also have the 70B model from Grok. Then set up the embedding model because we're gonna need to download it on our notebook. I'm using Hugging Face embedding, and I'm using the Baggy Small EN model, which very good, honestly. It's open source. Here defining the global setting configuration. This is for LlamaIndex, like putting which is the default large language model to use and which is the default embedding model that we're going to use. We're gonna need some data to work with. So this is from the cookbook of LlamaIndex itself. Downloading PDFs about the Drake Kendrick beef, which is kind of very new. I know it's some people is not into this much of music and rap, but Kendrick Lamar is a rapper and Drake is also a rapper. One of them dissed the other to oblivion. So this is gonna be the main topic of this project. Talking about this between Kendrick and Drake. After that, we're gonna need to load our data. There is two different ways that you can do that. One is using the llama bars, and the second one is using simple directory reader. The simple directory reader basically do as it say, you give it the input files direction and it load the data for you. Every one of them is gonna be named in different variables, so we can fetch it later. Here, a simple example of how you can do a chat using LlamaIndex. All you have to do is after setting the large language model is ask it to complete. And here I'm asking very simple questions, but of course the response is very typical. Do you like Drake or Kendrick better? As AI, it's gonna give you a response like this. I am just an AI. I don't have personal preference or opinion. But then I go on and compare both Drake and Kendrick in terms of what they are capable of and which music they are in. There is also the stream completion option. It's also underneath the large language model. Here I ask it a different questions. It's kind of a prompt to play a role. You are a Drake fan. Tell me why you like Drake more than Kendrick. And here is the stream response. We have to loop on top of it and get every line inside. Here it's very simple. It acts actually like a Drake fan. And it tell me, man, this is a tough one. As a Drake fan, I got give you honest reason. I vibe with the Six God more than Kung Fu Kenny. Just kidding, Kendrick is cool too. We have also the option of chatting with a list of messages. As you can see here, there is a list called messages, and each one play a role. And the first role is system. You are Kendrick. The second one here role ask it to write a verse, and you can ask it you can give the chat, which basically this is what we are doing right now, a normal chat that we have like with GPT or Gemini. Give it this list of messages and print out the response. I don't know, but I can feel if you use LlamaIndex, it's much tight in terms of how to use it. It's very simple, and trust me, the comparison, the speed of the response and execution, you will feel it. I'm not gonna read the verse, but honestly, it's kind of decent. But as you can see, just an example. What can it do with just a simple prompt and without any example? You are a Kendrick, write a verse, and it's go on, and it's acting like this. Second example, building a basic rank. The first version that we will have is a vector search. The vector search will need a documentation, which is the third PDF that will have the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef. And this is what we're gonna use to ask, and the index, and we're gonna give it option, the similarity top K, which is to give me the top 3 research result that you will find inside this PDF. Here I give the query engine a simple query. Tell me about the family matters. Family matters is a song, so you don't get confused for Drake from this beef. And here from the PDF is a concept of the family matters. A central theme is in the ongoing beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, and on and on. It's keep going on explaining what it is and what Drake did and what Kendrick did. So it's kind of answer me as best as I can from the PDF. And as you can see here, it's super easy to do. There is not a lot of setup here, as you can see. Second one is summarization. This will basically give you the entire text that it can find, but this one I'm gonna summarize it a little bit. Same thing here, we're gonna set up the summary index, the first thing from the documents, what kind of data that we're gonna work with, and the summary index as a query engine. Here I don't give it any basically limitation, just give me all you have. And here the query given your assessment of this article, who wants beef. This is a very good question to test this summarization, because we're gonna look to the entire PDF data and give me an answer based on its understanding. As some people maybe like hate this, but Kendrick Lamar has turned the table and put the pressures on Drake, showing his range and strategic prowess. Basically, he's saying that Kendrick Lamar won, but in non-direct way. Third example, building advanced rank or routing. Building a router that can choose whether to do vector search or summarization. It's gonna have two tools inside it, and it decides which one it will use. So the vector tool, we're gonna take the index as a query engine. Both of them will do. The metadata we're gonna be different here from this one. The tool metadata will be first the name vector search and description useful for searching for specific facts. The second one will be summary and useful summarizing an entire documentation. We have right now two different tools, the summary tool and a vector. Here we're gonna set up our router query engine, and we're gonna give it the first thing, the tool that we created, the vector tool and the summary tool. Important note to notice that there is something called select multi, and here I put it false. False mean that the router query will select one tool of this to handle our basically questions or query. If you put it true, you're gonna give it access to all the tools that we have. Verbose is true, so to see what's going on in the background and which model you're gonna work with is 17B model. Here I give it a simple question. Tell me about the song Meet the Grams. Why is it significant? Here it says selecting query engine 0, which is the first one. The song Meet the Grams is not well known, so I am searching for specific facts about it. The final response here. Meet the Grams is a law song that won't travel as far up the chart as some of the Kendrick other tracks, but it's built to work in the same functions down to call and response to OVO, referring to the song is significant because it shows the Kendrick ability to crack good sophomoric joke with lines like trying to strike a chord and it's probably minor. So the response was quite long, as you can see it here, and it's go on, but give me a very good response based on the question that I have. And it selected the first one, which is the query index for the vector search, not the summary. For some reason, I have no idea why, but this is the router query engine. It's very useful if you have multiple tools. It's kind of half of agent, in my opinion, but a very dumb agent, to be honest. The fourth option that we have, text-to-SQL query. It's here we're downloading a simple SQLite database with 11 table about music, playlist, and the customers of it. From select alchemy, import the create engine, metadata, all the stuff we're gonna use column, integer, string, all the stuff. In the LlamaIndex course, there is also support for the SQL database engine. We can use what we want with it. In order to create a query from a database, we're gonna need to know which tables, columns that we will work with. Here I give it the SQL database that we have and the tables that I want to work with and the model that I have to which model that I'm gonna use. It's in my case that's the Llama 70B model, but have a larger tokens context, so we can work with a bit more of a data. Here a response for my question, what are some albums? It's a very generic questions actually, it's not that specific, but it's gonna create a query and give me a response. The response here are some albums for Zeus, About to Rock, We Salute You by AC/DC, which an amazing band if you want to listen to some old cold rock. And it go on give you some sort of more of music here. What are some artists? Limited to 5. Here it start to get to basically a specific select range query, and it gave me here some 5 artists, AC/DC, except Aerosmith, Aliens, and Alice in Chains. Here a more complex join. What are some tracks from artists AC/DC? Limited to 3. It's gonna join 2 tables, the artist and albums, searching for the AC/DC albums inside the table and limit only to 3. Here are 3 tracks from the legendary Australian rock band AC/DC, For Just About Rock, We Salute You, Put the Finger on You, and let's get it up. If you want to see the query of this SQL that we have asked about, All I have to do is asking the response, access the response metadata, and selecting the SQL query. And it will print out only the query that it have. And it's quite long actually. Just a keynote here from experience, I tried to use the same thing in LangChain and it was very slow when it got to this part. But when I'm using LlamaIndex, I noticed that the speed of it is amazing. Like it's executed like just like this. This is one of the reasons that I'm using Grok, especially when you're working with database. You need to create the SQL query very fast so you don't feel the delay of the model creating the query that you want. The fifth example that we have is structured data extraction. What is structured data extraction? If you don't know it, it refers to the process of identifying and retrieving specific pieces of data or information from unstructured or semi-structured data and organize it into structured format like tables, database, or spreadsheet if you want to. This process is essentially in making data more accessible and able to search it easily. Here I'm gonna create class or our data structure that we want. It's a restaurant and it have a restaurant with a name, city, and cuisine. The name is a string, the city string, and the cuisine also a string. The large language model I'm using here is the 8B. The prompt template that I want to use is I generate a restaurant in giving city. I'm going to give it the city name over here and use this prompt template to create a structure predict. Here I give it the class is the restaurant that we created, the prompt template, and the city name that I want. In my case, it's Miami. You can do whatever what you want. Here, it gives me a restaurant called La Casa de Tabes. I have no idea what mean tabes. City is Miami. The cuisine is Spanish. So it's give me a structured data from something that didn't even existed. All right, we almost there. This is creating a RAG with a shared history. It's a RAG application, but with a memory that can look to the previous history conversation and use it to retrieve given condensed questions and feed the condensed question to the contents of the chat history into the final large language model prompt. Here, we're gonna create something called a chat memory buffer. This is the limit of the current memory that you give it to use for the RAG. It's quite a lot, honestly, but we are limited also because this is a free notebook. Here, we're gonna create something called condense plus context chat engine. From defaults, we're gonna give it the index as a retriever, what memory that we created for the large language model that I want to use, and the context prompt. Here, the context prompt can be anything that you want. Here, in this case, you are a chatbot able to have normal instructions as well as talk about the Kendrick and Drake beef. Here are the relevant document for the context, and the instruction use the previous chat history or the context above to interact and help the user. Here, we're gonna give it a simple question to the chat engine. Tell me about the song Drake released in this beef. So it's a generic questions, but it cover a lot. Here the condensed question. Tell me about the song Drake released in this beef. Context page label 31. File path, find the data. And culture, here it say what kind of song it made and where it is. The page label 18. File path, also there's the Kendrick. Here it gives you a list of the song with details about it. This information, Drake Kendrick beef, according to the context, Drake didn't release any song directly addressing Kendrick Lamar during the beef. However, Kendrick Lamar did release few tracks, interpreted as this track aimed at Drake. So after it search and find all the information that have here, it gave me a final response here. Here I asked it another question, follow-up question actually about the Kendrick. And it do the same thing, it search and find the data that it need, look into the data that we have and considering the questions before it. And it give me a very long answer over here. Kendrick Lamar, according to the context, Kendrick Lamar did release some songs that many interrupt this track aimed at Drake, blah blah blah, like that. And we don't trust you. And I give you a couple of examples. But as you can see here, this a bit advanced RAG, but it's not complete complex as much. But it's what good about it. It search the data that we have and give you exactly where it is. It find the data and what kind of data it have. And finally, we gonna create an agent. This is the last thing we're gonna do in this tutorial. We're gonna build a simple agent using the LM3. We're gonna perform RAG over a simple function as well, the document above, as in this example. Here we're gonna create the tools that we're gonna use inside this agent. The first one is multiply, and second one add and subtract and divide. I give it basically what it do and the simple functionality of it. Here I set the tools for each one, function tool from defaults, what kind of function that it will use. And here is the agent, React agent from tools. I give it all the tools that I have, the model that I want to use, and of course verbose for true, because I want to see what's going on in the background. I give it a simple questions. What is 121 plus 2 multiplied by 5? And here it starts to do some math, running steps, give it some sort of ID, step input, what is the question that I ask it. The current language of the user is English. So it's go to specify what language I'm talking in. I need to use a tool to help me answer these questions. Action, add input, give it this function here, add, it start using the function adds, and observation, give me this results, running the steps, second steps. Now I have the result of addition. I need to use another tool to multiply it by 5. Multiply, so it multiplied the number by 5. Observation 615, step input none. I can answer without using any more tools. I will use the user language to answer and give you the final answer over here. It's a very simple agent, but you can see what it can do with it. Give it a couple of functions. One function can connect the database or do a certain some sort of execution of function processing or calling up something as calling an API. And that's it for this video. I know it was a very long video compared to the video that I make, but I wanted to give you some sort of a crash course intro to LlamaIndex and see how it's good it is. And trust me, on the speed and the larger scale data, LlamaIndex will beat LangChain. So use it when you have a ton of data that you want to work with as a RAG application. That's my advice. So I hope that you enjoyed and learned from this video something new. Please leave a like at least for my work on this video and trying to explain everything. And I'm gonna leave all the code, all the stuff that we talked about in this video with an article comparing LangChain and LlamaIndex link in description, and a cookbook for all the stuff that we talked about and more, for more example if you wanted to use LlamaIndex in the future. Thank you for watching. My name is Hussam Eddin, or simply you can call me Sam, and see you in the next video.